from Thales or the others, but instead quotations that we find in people, especially like Aristotle, where Thales said this. So we get the idea from Aristotle that Thales did this. And by the way I outlined this gradual change in the arche concept really comes from Aristotle, who gives us this history and points out that, see, all these people were gradually leading up to me. So I'm the one that's right, and I'll tell you how it all works. See, that's where Aristotle comes in. However, we do have the dialogues of Plato. And I have to explain. Plato isn't really Plato's name. Plato is a nickname that means plate. Well, broad, basically, right? And so why did he have the nickname? Apparently he was very broad-shouldered and was a good wrestler. Right? So everyone called him Plato. Like Plato, he was big guy, There's some other arguments too, but in any case, Plato. What was his real name? Well, is it a real name? But they say in some texts that his real name was Aristocles. Aristocles. Very few people that I've met know that, by the way. But it's out there. And Aristo means the best. Aristoi means the best. And Cles is the glory of the best. So he's the glory of the best. And oddly enough, when we look at his philosophy, what we discover is his philosophy is basically glorifying the best. Aristocrats, those are the best. So you should have a power based on the leadership of the best. Aristocrat, right? The power to the best. Right? And they meant the best, they were smart enough that they could actually accomplish something, hopefully. I'm not sure that aristocrats have, kept up with that, Okay. Am I confusing? I've got so many different things I'm all trying to throw out there all at once and get done before the end of the class. So, sorry.
I thought, when are we going to get to the discussing the apologies?
Yes. I thought, maybe we should discuss that first, in case I don't get all the way to it. But eventually what we do get to are these sophists. Right? Sophists all conclude we're never going to figure this out. There's no quite easy way to figure this out. So instead, we basically take a really very relative point of view, say that man is the measure. That's their theme from Protagoras. And man is the measure, and what does that mean? Well, men decide what is true. It's not like there's a real truth out there that we can find out. Instead, your society believes this is true, this society believes this is true, and that's, relative to the society. When in Rome, act like the Romans do. Socrates comes along, trained probably by Protagoras as his mentor and other mentors, and ends up feeling like that is wrong. Truth is not relative. And all these sophists who are paid teachers, they go out and they teach and get paid for it, right? They're wrong. There's got to be a truth out there, but I don't know what it is. And so he goes through a process of talking to all of the famous teachers and trying to find out if they're right. Which of these teachers is really the one teaching the truth? And why does he do this? We hear this in the Apology. What's his explanation for why he goes and bugs all these people?
Because they think they know.
They think they know. But what spurred him on? Remember, I mentioned last class, Apollo is involved in this. And
he goes to the oracle and
he is told that he is a wise man. He doesn't really believe that, so he's going around and seeing like there has to be someone wiser than me to kind of disprove
Yeah,
the
it's
oracle.
Socrates himself doesn't actually go Chaerephon, he who hears this message. Chaerephon, phoneme, he's the one that goes to Delos. By the way, you can still go there. It's a great big tourist site. I usually visit it with Google Earth, and you can see, all the buses, the parking lot, all the people in the hot sun waiting in line, and what is it? It's a ruin, a ruin. That means like there's rocks still piled up, but basically they don't have a building, so yeah. But yeah, you could go visit it. It's neat, and there's all sorts of YouTube videos about it. You can find out enough about the Temple of Delphi, right? And find out. And what do we have? We have a priestess sitting on the crack on a tripod seat where volcanic fumes are coming up. They thought this was like the belly button of the world. This was the center where the universe has been created. This is a holy place, right? And there's a temple there, and the priestesses, there's more than one, but they take turns sitting on this tripod over the fumes, which I don't know if you've ever sat on a tripod over gaseous fumes coming up. They asphyxiate a person. And then the priest would charge people to come up and ask these asphyxiated priestesses questions. And because they were asphyxiated, the questions were answered in a very weird way. So Chaerephon comes up and he says, "Is anyone wiser than Socrates?" And the priestess says, "No," or something like that. So Chaerephon rushes back. Socrates, the voice of Apollo, who this was, right, says, "You are the wisest." And Socrates thought, "No way. I'm clearly not the wisest. I'll check. I'll find the wisest person, inquire until I find out for sure that they know all this stuff, and then I'll go back to the god and say, 'You said I was the wisest, but look, I found Joe Snuffy, who's way wiser than me, so,' or, I don't know. What was he going to say?" So, of course, he goes back and starts asking questions from all these people that are considered to be wise. And he uses a method that's called Ellen key. The Ellen Kuss. That's an actual word that no one uses as far as I know. But, if you're going to be part of the, educated elite, you need to use lots of words that no one else knows, right? So there's a word that you could use. And so basically what he does is he asks people for definitions. So someone says things like that they're a priest, and they know how to be pious. Oh my goodness, that is such an important thing, how to be pious. Can you teach me how to be pious? This, if I go to, so we're still talking about the apology right now. It's just that how did you get in so much hot water with everybody, right? Is that okay? Yeah? I'm on track. So the Euthyphro, which, we could go to that one too, the same as I did with the apology. And Euthyphro is interesting because EU is Greek for good, like euthanasia. It's not the young people in Asia. It's a good death, right? As if there could be one, right? EU means good. By the way, if you say a utopia and you use EU, that's a good topia, But if you use you, that's not a good one. Does that make sense? Okay. Okay, and then theo is God, and phro is phronesis, or analysis. So phro means good God analysis. Phro is a priest. He's a specialist on the gods. He knows what the gods love. Right? Yes? See how that works? No. Paul.
These are the names that they took on or were given like after they got into this profession, or is this like a post like thing where it became part of the language because of these famous figures?
Beats the crap out of me. I don't know. I've inquired about this because it's so obvious, and yet no one talks about it. I don't know. Okay, like Socrates means all the power. Basically means he wins the argument. Right? He's the one who won the argument. Aristotle, Aristotelos. Aristoi, the best. Telos, purpose. And if you look, or order, right? So best order. So when you look at Aristotle's work, he's giving us what becomes really the whole way that we categorize everything. Still today, our basic logic is categorical logic, right? And that's kind of intriguing. So was Aristotle called that because that's what his work reflected? Or, Aristotle, get over here. Was that, the case? I don't know. I don't know how that worked. And it's not just in Greek, by the way. Moses, Moshe means to draw out, right? And I've heard he was called that because he was drawn out of the river. Remember the story? He, like all the greats, the mother had to rescue them from the enemy, so they put them in a little basket and floated them down a river. Moses was one. Sargon the Great was one. He was floated away by mom. So that's like a thing. You have to. Harry Potter lost his parents. If we're going to get into something like, how do you make someone a hero? You need to put them into a particular pattern, which has been called the monomyth. You get the hero's journey. And it seems like all the stories that we really, Luke Skywalker, lost his parents. Anakin, at least didn't know who Dad was, right? And loses mom too, by the way, as you know.
Why'd you spoil the movie? I'm just kidding. Of course I've seen it.
It does spoil it though, doesn't it?
It's pretty important.
Because one of the scariest movies out there is Beverly Hills Chihuahua. How many of you are familiar with Beverly Hills Chihuahua? Okay? So Chloe gets separated from her family, right? Ends up going through various ordeals, and she's constantly worried about a big climactic finish with Diablo, right? The devil, right? Yes? And she has a mentor, Yoda? No, the same person? No, Poppy is kind of a mentor, but we also have other ones. The shepherd. In any case, it's this story. Atonement. Chloe dies in the first movie and is lying on a rock in a cave with the sunlight shining on Chloe. Hello, Jesus. And she's resurrected. Hey, I'm okay. Right?
Yes.
It's not my fault.
Compare
But
Jesus
when
to
I
a
watch
chihuahua.
this movie and I think, how many kids are memorizing this movie? And then later on in life, an Episcopal minister is going to explain the life of Jesus to them, and they're going to say, "That's Chloe." Seriously. How are you going to believe? Well, it's a story. Sorry. It's just me. I don't think anyone else says that that's the scariest movie out there. But. So, Socrates is engaged with Euthyphro. This happens before his trial. He's actually waiting for his trial that we read about in the Apology. Euthyphro is ahead of him, and Euthyphro is there ready to put his father on trial for killing his slave accidentally. And Socrates clearly, doesn't say this, but clearly feels he ought not to be